Miss Nelson, and today we are going to be taking notes over dividing a decimal by a decimal. So you saw the very last example in the last operations with decimals foldable was decimal divided by decimal, and we had quickly shown you how to do it. If you didn't understand it, that's okay. That's what this lesson is going to be all about. But those were just already included in those notes, so we left this in there for you. So your first page says you have already learned how to divide a decimal by a whole number, such as 2 400ths divided by 2. Okay, so we know that that would have been 2.04 divided by 2. Okay, so you guys are familiar with how to do that. Now what we're going to be teaching you is how to divide when your divisor is going to be a decimal. Okay, so if you scroll down, it shows you which one is the dividend and which one is the divisor, in case you forgot that. And it says that we can transform any decimal division problem into a new problem with the same answer, but with a whole number divisor. This new problem can be solved with normal long division. So I'm going to teach you guys how to move those decimals and make your divisor a whole number. But then the very last example we do, I'm going to show you a shortcut after I show you the long way to do it, and you can use whichever way you prefer. So let's look at this first one. So it says solve, thinking how many times the divisor fits into the dividend. What do you notice? So I know down here in C and D we have decimals. I don't want you to worry about that. I only want you to worry about how many times your second number is going to go into your first number. So on A, we have 20, 60 divided by 20. I know that 20 will go into 60 3 times. On B, 6 divided by 2, I know 2 will go into 6 3 times. On C, even though this has a decimal, I'm going to look right here at my 2. So 2 will go into the 6. Again, is going to be 3 times. And same thing with D, even though we have 600ths divided by 200ths, again, I'm going to look at that 2 and it goes into the 6 3 times. So what you should notice is that all of these are the same. And the only difference between each of our problems is where my decimals were in my 60s and in my 20s, or as we moved the decimals, they became other numbers. So this is what I'm going to teach you how to do today by taking numbers that look like this and getting it to numbers that look like this so that your division is something like what you have done previously. So let's look at the bottom. And you guys have a B down here that's listed. I'm sorry. I just want you guys to cross out the B. It got added on there extra and we don't need that one. So it says solve the easier of the two problems in each box. Both answers are the same. So if we look at these, I have 5 divided by 2/10 and I have 50 divided by 2. Well, probably most of you are going to say, well, this one is going to be easier and I know that that is 25. What your directions say is that this is also going to be 25, and I'm now going to show you why that is how it is. Okay? So let's go to the second page of notes. So it says, the way to transform a more difficult decimal division problem, such as 3 439,000ths divided by 5 6/10, into a problem with the same answer, but with a whole number divisor is this. Okay, so we're going to start with decimals, and then eventually our divisor, the outside number, is going to become a whole number. Multiply both the dividend and the divisor by 10 repeatedly until the divisor becomes a whole number. This is huge, okay? So this is going to be key. So if you have a highlighter, you can go ahead and highlight. If you don't have a highlighter, you can just put stars, just like I did. That's perfectly fine, as long as you make it stand out, because that is your role that we're going to make the division easier. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm not actually going to work them out, but I'm going to be pointing something out in the problem. So we started with 6/10 divided by 300. So it says we multiply both numbers in the problem by 10 until the divisor is a whole number. So this is our original. This is where we start right here. And then in this problem, you notice that my outside number, which is my 300ths, has a decimal. So I need to move that decimal. So I multiply both of these numbers by 10. That gets us down to our second step here. But you notice I still have a decimal in my second step. So I multiply again both pieces by 10 again, and that gives me to my final problem, which is 60 divided by 3. This 3 is now a whole number, and now you can divide using the same method that you have always used. Okay, it says the last problem, 60 divided by 3, is easy to solve, so obviously we know the answer is 20. But the answer to our original problem of 6/10 divided by 300ths is also 20. Okay, and it says that you can actually check by multiplying that. So if we take our 20 and our answer, which was our answer, and we're going to multiply it by the other piece, our divisor, and see if we get the dividend as the answer. So I'm going to multiply 0.03 times 20, and we're just doing this to check and for me to prove to you that the answer is in fact the same. 0 times anything is 0. A lot of the times you'll see me put an X as a placeholder to show you that you have to go to the next spot. 2 times 3 is 6, and then 0. I'm going to add them together. So 0, 6, 0. I have 2 decimal places here, which means I have to move 2 decimal places here. So that gets me to my answer of 0.6, which if you see here was the original dividend in our problem. So that is just proving to you why the answer works the way it does. Okay? So let's look at our second example. Solve 2 104,000ths divided by 4/10. So we're going to do the same thing. I need to get rid of this decimal right here in my 4/10. So I multiply all of it by 10. And when I do that, it shifts the decimal one place over in my dividend here. But then my divisor is my whole number, that 4 that is circled. And then it says, then all we have to do is solve long division to solve the problem. So if you see over here in this green box, it's actually doing the long division for you. And you see that the answer they get is 5 2600ths. So if we use that answer, okay, we're going to check it the same way that we previously did. So let's now go to page 3 of your notes. And here they actually show you that it is checking. So they took, this was our answer here that we previously got. This was the divisor that was in the problem. And then this shows you the dividend that you started with in the problem. Okay? So it's just, again, proving to you why it works and how you actually get the same answer. So let's scoot it down. Number 3, it says multiply, same steps. We're going to multiply both by 10 until we get a whole number. And then we're going to use long division. It tells us the first one's partially done. So from this first example to get to the second, I'm multiplying everything by 10. So both the divisor and the dividend. But you notice I still have a decimal in my divisor. So I multiplied both of them again by 10. And that left me with a whole number divisor. You still are allowed to have a dividend that has a decimal in it. Okay? So now we're going to divide and we're going to solve the problem. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to pull my decimal up because I know it's going to be there. 5 doesn't go into 4, but 5 goes into 44 8 times, which is 40. I have 4 left over. Bring down that 5. So 5 goes into 45 9 times, which gives us 45, and we zero out. So because we zero out, that means that our answer is correct. So if we want to double check it and make sure that it is in fact going to get us the answer, we can take our original divisor, so 0.05, I'm going to multiply it by my 8.9. Remember, you do not have to line up your decimals. 9 times 5 is 45. 0 plus 4 is 4, placeholder. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4, 0, and 4. So I have 5, 4, 4. I have 2 decimal places in this number, 1 decimal place for a total of 3. So I move 1, 2, 3. And you notice that my answer of 445 thousandths is the same number that we started with, okay? You're looking for the original number that you started with, not what it shifted to as we multiplied by 10 each time, okay? So, this last problem, I'm going to show you guys a shortcut to solve it. If this shortcut confuses you, please be aware that you can use what we've been doing up to this point, multiplying by 10 the entire time until we get a whole number divisor. But I'm going to show you a shortcut for B. So we're going to take our 2 and 394 thousandths, and I'm going to set it straight up in my division box, and I'm going to divide it by 7/10. Okay? Now, what we previously would have done was multiply both of those numbers by 10 to move my decimal. Here's the shortcut if you can catch on to it. You notice that I have a decimal outside. I can never have a decimal outside, so I have to shift it over behind my 7. That means that essentially what I was doing was multiplying it times 10, because each shift of the decimal place is like multiplying times 10. If I move it on the outside number, I also have to move it on the inside number the same number of times. So since I moved it one place on the outside, I also move it one place on the inside. Now I have a whole number here of 7. So now I can actually divide like normal. So 7 goes into 23 3 times, which is 21. I had 2 left over. Bring down that 9. 7 goes into 29 4 times, which is 28. I have 1 left over. Bring down that 4. Goes into 14 twice. So we zero out. So my answer is 3 and 42 hundredths. If we want to make sure that that's correct and we're going to get our original number, I'm going to take that answer and I'm going to multiply it by my 7/10. So 7 times 2 is 14, 28, 29, 21, 23. So I have 2 decimals here and 1 here for a total of 3. 1, 2, 3. And you notice that this answer here is the same as what our dividend started with. So therefore we know that 3.42 or 3 and 42 hundredths is in fact the correct answer. Okay, so again, this is the shortcut. If you don't understand the shortcut, eventually you'll catch on to it, but if you want to keep multiplying by tens until your divisor is a whole number, that's perfectly fine with me. Okay? So make sure you come to class with any questions. Have a good day.